Hi, my name is Amy Hooper, and I am one of the instructional technology TOSAs here with the Marysville School District. And I'm just going to walk you through some basics of Skyward using Gradebook and some other basics. So, our learning targets for this training are basically how to log on to Skyward, how to use some of the or access some of the basic reports that are available in Skyward, including the grade proof sheet, which you will need for during the grading bucket period. So between semesters or trimesters, depending on what your school uses. We also look at how to use Skyward for mass messaging. I'll also talk a little bit about how you can take some of the reports and also pull out emails for parents, for example, and create like a group contact using Gmail and contacts in your Google app Waffle. And the last thing we'll talk about briefly is just looking at creating weighted grades with Skyward if that's something that you're interested in doing and don't know exactly how to do it using Skyward. All right, so the first thing you're going to need to do is to log onto Skyward. I suggest, creating your own bookmark for Skyward. You can actually see it right here on my bookmark. It's right between my Gmail and my managed systems. But you'll also find Skyward located under our MSD bookmarks. And that folder should be there right next to apps and just to the left of the app where it says apps, it should show a very rainbow, colorful waffle that you can click onto to get access to your apps. But what you really need to do is just go to your MSD bookmarks. If you do not have this bookmark folder, this MSD bookmarks, please make sure to contact somebody in the technology department. We would prefer you contact either myself, Amy Hooper, or Melissa Dilling with instructional technology so that we can help you get that MSD bookmark to show up, that folder to show up in the bookmarks. So once you click on MSD bookmarks, you'll have the option to click on a folder that says technology. And from technology, you'll have access to 4 different things, one being Skyward. So just while we're here, though, I really do recommend um, taking a look at what's available in the MSD bookmark, especially under technology. You'll find access to submitting help desk tickets, of course, Skyward, all the technology PD that we offer, and a nice playbook for staff, just is all about kind of technology and using the different devices that we have. So just want to make sure that is known, that it is there for you to access at any time. One thing I do suggest is when you go to open up Skyward, make sure, number one, that it's Marysville School District. There are other Marysville school systems out there that also use Skyward. So if you're having issues logging in and you are using the correct login and password, it could be that you did not go to our Marysville School District Skyward account. I would then you make sure that on the drop down menu where it says login area that you are changing that to all access so that it will bring you into your teacher view. Obviously, family student access is what is, as it says, it's for families and for students. Once you click on that drop down menu, all areas is what you really want. Employee access will take you directly to your employee side. So, information about your paychecks, your W 2s, those kind of things. And then some other people, depending on the type of position or job that they have at the district, will have access to the other areas such as enrollment and secured. But for teachers, I would just go to all areas and click on that and log in. Now, when it first opens up, it should show you all your classes. You can click on, as you can see at the top. And so you want to make sure you have it listed on. You can either have all classes or just your current classes or just the ones meeting today. If you're focusing just on getting maybe your grades out, you might want to just click on current so that you're only focusing on semester 1 or trimester 1 if you are at the trimester semester break at your school. Some of the basic reports on Skyward that I recommend. A good one is your assignment listing by student. That kind of gives you an overview of the assignments that have been turned in by each student in that particular class. Um, Grade proof sheet is all the way usually at the bottom. If you don't see it, you may have to adjust the size of your window display, but it will be the last report listed. You can also minimize with these minus signs the folders being open, so you could close some of those up so that the reports list is not as long. But grade proof sheet is what you're going to need to print out for your registrar at your particular school. So that is the report down there at the bottom. The other one that I recommend is class roster. You can use that as the report to kind of filter out particular information about students. So maybe just their email or just their parents' email. And then you can take that information from the spreadsheet, copy the emails, and create those group contact lists if you would like to easily just email certain classes or certain periods or however you have it broken up. So to find reports, you can easily go into a grade book for one of your classes and go to the tab in between posting and charts. It will say reports and click on that, and that will have the drop down menu that will show you a list of those reports. As I was talking about using class roster, it's a quick way to gather email addresses. I have two arrows here on the screen. The one to the far right is the email that you would check off if you just want for your students, a list of all your students' emails. Although if you're using Google Classroom, I think Google Classroom is an easier way to email all students quickly, but you can use Skyward to collect those email addresses. Same with guardians, and you can do so there's a spot down here on the bottom where it says family information. So I have one arrow pointing up that says email. If there's additional family members or you want to do all guardians, you might want to check both the email boxes. There's one under the arrow, and then there's one to the far right as well. And for family information, you can select just primary guardians or all guardians and get their email addresses. I would then suggest going into our Google app Waffle, which is available under your Google Drive account or Gmail up in the upper right. And I would click on contacts. So once you open up contacts, you're able to create a label and assign that label to one or multiple contacts. So I would first create a label and you would call it whatever your class is. You could by content area name, or just you could do period 1 and period 2, a different label, 3, etc. And then what you would do is go to in the upper left, the plus sign would drop down to this. It give you the ability to create either just one singular contact or create multiples at a time. Once you create multiple contacts, you can copy and paste in those emails that you extracted through your report from Skyward. Assign all those multiple contacts the label that you created. And then when you go to type in an email, all you have to do is type the label name, so like period 1, and and make sure you type in BCC to protect the email addresses, but I would suggest doing that. And then it would automatically put all those email addresses in that are associated with that particular label. Skyward, the last thing we're going to cover is the ability to send out mass messaging. So if you don't want to go through the complicated steps that I just reviewed with you, you can send messages straight to Guardian emails through Skyward as well. So I would open up your gradebook, which to whatever class it is that you want to send emails to. On the far left side, there's going to be a tab that says Other Access. And then you're going to go just the next step down under Discipline, which would be Message Center, and click on Message Center. Once the Message Center opens up, you'll have the ability to kind of type a subject for the message or message summary, then the actual content of the message and message detail. You can select the priority. You can also change kind of the different styles that you're using within the message that is being sent. And you can select when the message is sent by using the post date. So you can actually type up messages ahead of time and then schedule them for a later time to be. You can also post messages to a calendar on Skyward. And you can allow for maybe just family access or family and student or just student access to the messages. You can select who can respond back to the messages as well. And then you can also, so that's just sending a message out through Skyward. You can also send it as an email. And again, you can select when that email is sent and who it goes to. And also, you can select who it gets posted to down below. If it goes to all of your classes, you can uncheck some classes if you don't want them to receive it. So, for example, using my list of classes here, if I had a message just for my world geography classes, I would unselect or uncheck psychology and multicultural studies and just have it send to my world geography. Or where it says post to all classes, you can leave that checked, and then that would send your message out to all classes. There's also the ability to create a quick link to your classes under quick access or favorites under your Educator Access Plus. In the upper right, you should find a little star that says favorites and drop down. And then you can just add your classes if you want to have, and then they show up here where it says teacher quick access if you just want to have a quicker way of accessing your classes. So adding assignments. If you are brand new and have never used Skyward before, you would go into your gradebook for each particular class. You would click on the tab that's assignments. It's the third one in from the left. Click on add assignments, and then you would go through the process of creating a title for the assignment. So description, I called this one day one. I also gave it a category, so we'll talk about that with weighted grades as well. You would then give it an assigned date, so the date is being assigned on, what date you're proposing it being due, and then if you needed to change that, you can give an actual due date. Assign a score, the maximum score they can receive, and then also what kind of a weight multiplier for that particular assignment. You can choose where the assignment is also posted, whether it shows up in family access so that guardians can see it, or if it just posts to student access. So if you want students to be able to see it, make sure it does post to student access. And then you can assign the same assignment to multiple classes. So for this one in particular, I was only assigning it to my psychology class. But if I wanted to, I could uncheck psychology and then check all my world geography classes, which there looks like there was two maybe for this particular semester that I would have had. So yeah, then you can also on the left-hand side click on the boxes and check which classes that assignment is going to be associated with. I'm talking about your BFFs as mass assign. This is something that I use a lot. So under your mass assign options to the far right, you can automatically just put scores in, and then you can go in and change them. So if you have students who, if you have a really great class and a lot of students turn them in, you might assign 100 for everyone and then just go in and kind of change the grade for the few that either don't turn in or don't do what they're supposed to with the assignment. Or you could do 0 and then do the opposite, go in and just adjust the scores. You can also use things like no count. So for students who miss an assignment and you don't need them to make it up or anything, you might have it not count towards their grade. And over here you have missing. You can mass assign missing. So if you put in assign scores as 0, hit apply. That'll list zeros for every single student. You could go over here to missing and do the same thing, mass assign, so it all checks off missing over here. And then, or you could just also up here where it says mark unscored as 0 and missing, just automatically do that. for the assignment, and then go in and manually adjust students who actually do turn it in and they receive a score for the assignment. So those are some things that just help maybe save time so you're not putting in individual grades for each assignment, for each student. Use your mass assign options and shortcuts to assign it to everyone, and then maybe go through and change the smaller amount of students that maybe are either turning it in or not turning the assignments in. So you can also adjust so it's not at 100 or it's not at 0. You could start at 50% if you wanted to for students, and then allow them the opportunity to, depending on what they score or when they turn it in, to increase the grade. So if you hit that 50 over here on the right under mass assign options, type in 50 and hit apply, then you can see here on my grade book how 50 is showing up for all students. And then making sure when you are putting these grades in on the upper right, just to the left of mass assign options, you have that save button. So make sure before you walk away from your grade book, you do hit save, or else you'll have to start over again. For those of you who might want to use weighted grades with Skyward, I'm just going to walk you through that. So you do have to kind of go in and do this for each individual class. You can't, unfortunately, apply the same thing to all classes. They have to be individually switched. So you're going to open your grade book for one of your classes. You'll need to change the grade method under categories, and I'll show you that in a moment, under the tab in the grade book. So here we have, so you should be familiar so far with the tabs of other access for messaging, assignments for entering assignments in. The tab in between those two classes just helps you go back and forth between your other classes. So if you're from one grade book and you want to go to a different grade book for another class, you can easily do that under classes. There's also attendance, which you should be using on a daily basis. And then we have categories. So under categories, it'll take you to this screen. It gives you a lot of different categories to choose from. And so you can change your score methods. You're going to have to change the score method first, and then you can apply those same categories to other classes. So that will save you time. So you click on change your grade method under categories. You're going to want to change it to base grades on percents assigned to categories. And so since we're operating on a semester basis, that's the one I would choose. Total points, obviously that wouldn't make it a weighted grade situation. It's just going by the total points earned in the grading. I would choose the middle one, base grade percentage assigned to categories. And then you have to, if you want to apply the same categories to all your classes, then you have to make sure that all of them are using the same categories. So if you don't use the same categories for all your classes, I would suggest going in and changing all your classes first to the type of score method. So you can see here that classes that are in different terms, so 3 to 4 or 1 to 2, have grade periods that are different. I've changed it for my second period world geography. So, but in order to use that same categories, I need to go into my I could adjust my second period world geography to the same as my first because of the same grading period, and they have the same categories. Now, my psychology class is the same grading period as my world geography class that I changed, but it also has a different category of CR, which I set up when I was demonstrating how to put assignments in. So I would need to remove that category of CR in order to apply easily the same grading categories as my world geography class. So if you have two classes that are exactly the same, like my world geography class, I would probably use my same categories and apply it to that. But if it's a different class and maybe you use different grading categories, then you would have to go in and manually adjust each one separately. So to edit your categories and add weighted percentages to them, after you change your scoring method, you would then go to add and edit your categories. So that gives you the opportunity now to go in and check off which categories you want to use. So they're automatically going to come up checked. You want to hit unselect all, then manually go through and check off the ones you want to use, assign them a modified percent. It does need to add up to 100% up here in the upper right area. And then when you are done, make sure you remember to hit save. So this is what example assessments that I'm using, and it's at 20%. And then I would have 3 or 4 more other categories that I've also selected with the check mark and assign a modified percent. And now all those categories add up to 100. And then I would hit save in the upper right. So these are the ones, I didn't show them on the previous slide, but here are the ones I set up. So assessments that you saw, I set that for 20%, daily work 30, homework 30. And then if I assign any like special projects, those are worth 20. And then I would go ahead and select use these categories for my other classes. So I could apply it to my other world geography classes. If I wanted to apply these same categories to my psychology class, then I have to go in and make that adjustment of taking away that category that was CR, or course requirement, I think it stands for. So just make sure that you are changing your score method first, adding and editing your categories next, and then going and applying them to your other classes if you want to have that all be the same. So again, remember to make sure that you don't have any restrictions. So psychology has the category of CR, so it won't let me apply it to that. But I have adjusted here, as you can see, for my 3, 4. I now could apply the same categories to my world geography. I can select it's in white and not in the bluish gray. I can select world geography for my first period, terms 3, 4. Same for my second period, world geography 3, 4, even my first period, and multicultural studies, because they are all using the same grading method. And I'm applying it to all grading periods as well. The only thing it won't let me apply it to is teacher assistant, because I haven't changed the scoring method, or psychology, because we're using a different category in psychology. All right, so that is just some information on logging on to Skyward, accessing the reports that you need, especially that grade proof sheet for your registrars, for when you are submitting semester or trimester grades. We also talked about mass messaging. And then lastly, setting up weighted grades in your grade book. If you have any questions regarding Skyward, feel free to reach out to Melissa Dilling or myself, Amy Hooper. We are the Instructional Technology TOSAs with the Marysville School District. If you're having any technical issues with Skyward, we recommend contacting Debbie Anderson at the Service Center.